up above, I've got my most recent release, The Fall of Tartaria ebook. It's up on Amazon now. And the recording for the last session that we did 2 weeks ago, do this space every 2 weeks, is also out on podcast channels. So Spotify and YouTube and Apple Podcast and a bunch of others. If you don't use those, obviously, there's Amazon and Pandora and whatever else out there as well. So those are available via the links in that thread. And then tomorrow's space I co-host with Chris is on AI film 3. We do a lot of narrative material and, obviously talk writing as well, just because, you got to have something to work from when you're creating film or video. At any rate, I don't know what you want to hear about today. I'm happy to talk about any of those things. Last session, we talked about formatting, I'm pretty sure, or at least using KDP in general for releases, which is, there's a lot of different channels for distributing your books. That's the one that I primarily use, because that's where I have kind of learned that most of my sales come from in terms of paperbacks and ebooks. I used to do more, but then you're kind of just having to promote across the board. And really, I think Amazon kind of dominates the indie self-publishing scene. So that's, my primary outlet for my material that I release. We also talked about advertising, and promoting your books is important. You want people to read your work after you've put it out. I am currently doing a test on Facebook for some ads. It's been a while since I did any advertising personally on Facebook, so it was kind of a good opportunity around the recent release of Tartaria to test some things out and see how it goes. We'll probably report on some of that stuff in the future as I kind of A/B test some things over, the next month or so. Definitely worth a listen if you can advertise on Twitter. Seems to be pretty cost effective. What's up?
Nothing much. Just, I made a salad because I hadn't eaten yet all day, ripping and running.
Smart.
And I'm like, dang, your space is about to start. So I was like, I might as well sit in the crowd, but it's only me and you right now. So
yeah.
Now I have you pulling a Bill Burr over here talking to the void.
Yeah. I'll do
like,
that.
I'll eat in between, conversation. But I saw you was on the Film 3 space last night, and when you were talking about doing a graphic novel, people doing graphic novels and stuff, and you having a space, I wanted to come in because I have a very what would I consider my life? A life that would be unbelievable for the things that I've been through.
Cool.
And I always wanted to create a graphic novel or something, because yes, I could do a book, but for the occult type stuff that's happened to me, it seems to be a graphic novel would be the smartest thing I could possibly do with it.
Wild. Are you an illustrator?
No, but I know I can get AI to illustrate what comes out of my head.
Yeah. To a degree, right? You got to work at it and refine it, dial it in. I don't know what experimentation you have done or how far you've gone with it, but I would say, tell us about that.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I've done a lot of other stuff I'm doing right now, so I haven't started the graphic novel thing yet, but I did want to be in spaces that are talking about it.
Yeah.
So at least kind of keep it in the forefront and give me ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess just have you played with any of the like generative image tools at all? Are there any that you prefer or that you don't like, or you've found that you're getting better results from if you have used them?
Oh, okay. Yeah, Pika. I've used Pika, um, and been playing around with that. Just getting better with trying to work with prompts.
For sure.
And then ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
I go and create something on Canva, take it to ChatGPT, do a prompt, and then just like really, I guess you could say like 10x it on how it looks and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
So I've
awesome.
been playing around with it for a little bit.
Good workflow. I feel like I have not played with Canva's tools at all for AI, but I've seen other people using that, and I think it's cool. Whatever. And again, like going back to LLMs like ChatGPT and taking advantage of what they can do for you. Those are all good workflows just in general of kind of like seeing how to talk to the machines. I'm not releasing a lot of like editorial that's coming through any LLMs, but I do use them for like conversational tools to kind of explore my own thinking with it. And then I do my writing. So, I'm not against anybody using any of the tools to play around and stuff, but I do find that like that some of the models kind of get a little derivative or make errors, and I don't want that. But I do find them to be great for ideation and kind of like plotting things out, outlining, or just kind of like exploring my thoughts in regards to a topic and things like that.
Oh no, I'm 100% with you on that. My show that I do on Mondays called Brunch Before Lunch. That's like a brunch midday check-in.
Cool.
Kind of like a mental health space. I literally went to ChatGPT and asked to create a show based around brunch terms dealing with mental health. And it just printed it all up. So now I'm taking the subjects and the breakdown of the two different types of shows that I put on there, and I'm mixing and matching. So over time, I'll end up with a complete show with a little bit from one aspect that ChatGPT had and another one that'll make my show complete. So I just really started diving into ChatGPT. I've had it for a while, but I never really, I guess I wasn't creatively ready to dive into something like that yet. But right now I am. Like I'm flowing with creativity right now.
That's fair, and congrats. So here's what I would ask you: what kind of computer or system do you use or have?
I just got like a little simple computer, one of them IBM like workflow computers that most people have. It's not anything fancy or nothing like that.
Okay. Yeah, I was just kind of curious, like what your chipset might be, and maybe to recommend local tools. So for, systems that will run on your machine, I don't know that machine particularly, but I would guess there's probably something that you can run locally. I try to steer away from doing stuff in like cloud-based systems so that I can kind of retain my creative process and not necessarily give it over to third-party servers. And like, I'm not against anybody that wants to do that. It's perfectly fine. It's just for me, I want to kind of own that data and not necessarily give it away for additional training. There's like LLM Studio, GPT for all. I really like. I would guess that will run on your machine. I don't know if you have like a GPU in that computer. I don't have a dedicated GPU. I run Mac OS, so it's kind of like an all-in-one CPU, GPU chipset for the M series. But it runs pretty well. Like they do a lot of development to streamline their platform on GPT for all, and runs really great. It's running better than it ever has. In my opinion, like I've been using it for, I guess, a year at this point. And again, like it runs on my machine, so you can save things. Or another thing that I've, started doing with it is feeding it my documents so that it can draw from what I have written already about particular topics, which, I haven't done a lot of playing around with that. So I can't necessarily say that it is better or more reliable or anything like that, but it's something that that's on my mind.
Okay, so you're talking like text to image, pretty much.
Yeah, that. But I do that with like other programs. So what I run is a program called Diffusion Bee, and then I run another one that is called Draw Things. So those are like Mac OS platforms. I don't think they exist on other systems. Don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure Diffusion Bee doesn't, but I feel like Draw Things might. I just can't speak to that because I don't look it up because I don't have those systems. So, excuse me. I know LLM Studio for text will. I also know that there are a variety of other ways to run a lot of AI packages on Windows. Like there's a program called Pinocchio, which is very, very easy to set up and run. And it runs in the browser after. Okay, so let me start back at the beginning. It's a standalone piece of software that will boot up AI packages into the browser. Let me phrase it that way. That's the correct way to say it. But those still run locally. They don't necessarily, you're not making calls out of your network or to other people's servers and stuff like that. So it's, in my opinion, that's kind of the way I like to go with it, just because, again, like I want to retain my information and don't necessarily like want my prompts or the outputs to get trained on. That's not to say that I haven't used ChatGPT. I did actually use it kind of recently. And because they are constantly like tweaking things under the hood, you're going to get access to the web and things like that, where a lot of programs that run locally, they don't necessarily have web access to kind of keep up with things unless you update them. But in terms of them being able to like call out to the internet, that's less viable, though you could basically like download PDFs of websites that you wanted and kind of use those inside of, say, for example, GPT for all, and create a repo of documents that you want to draw from. So that, again, that's an option.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I just recently, probably yesterday, took my artwork that I did or created on Canva, and then I just happened to put I pinned the image onto ChatGPT. I was really just asking it to give me a prompt to be able to go put it on something else, but it popped up an image right then and there, and I was like, "Oh, well, crap. Okay, well, I'm just gonna keep using this."
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. Use the things that make creativity easier for you, but at the same time, like, once you get into your process or discover that initial ideation phase that works for you, obviously, you want to be expressing your thoughts and the things that are important to you through that, whether it's images or whatever. Like, I'm finding more and more that even though I get decent material out of image generators, say like Stable Diffusion or Flux, that's what I use because they'll run locally. That doesn't mean that I'm not then going in and running this stuff in Photoshop to clean things up or change things or alter a scene or composite components, elements from pictures to be able to get the action or the composition on screen that I want.
Yeah, I can totally see that. I know it's just like a process and kind of learning what you how you want to set things up for yourself personally.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I learned from the guy Tetra, that is the founder of OD Labs. And he said to me, he said, create first and then clean up after.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, but that's not usually how my brain works. Even though I'm a born artist, at a certain point, I'd be over analyzing. But now I'm just getting back into the flow of how I used to be when I was a teenager, of just creating things and then dealing with it afterward. So I'm not thinking about it as much as I used to on purpose.
Yeah, I feel like, to steer back around to writing, I'm not a prolific writer in the sense that it takes me a long time to write. I also don't probably turn out as much material as some other folks. And I'm perhaps too concise. Like getting into fiction with short stories has been a good vehicle for me in that way, because it's not necessarily a really long process, which would take me forever. So just for example, the piece I released earlier this year in the spring, The Relic of the Aztecs, I worked on that piece for like a year, and a lot of it was research for like language and factual information to be able to incorporate into what became, an alternative history piece fundamentally. And that was kind of born out of research that I was doing to write a piece I intend to release next spring, which will mean, that one that I actually wanted to write initially will have taken me 2 years, and it's only going to be about 6,000 words. That's not incredibly long, but it is an incredibly long amount of time to work on anything. There are people that can really pump stuff out, and I think that like they are able to do that as a result of saying like, here's the word count I'm going to generate today. I'm going to pound out 1,000 words every day, or more, whatever, their goals are. And then they're going to edit later just to kind of, get back to the point you were making. It's like, I do a lot of editing, in sequence with my writing, just because as I'm discovering things about the characters or the settings or the arc of the narrative, stuff changes, or my word choice changes, or what was, a first draft line gets refined a little bit as I learn about that stuff and I kind of reread through there. That's probably not the way to be if you want to hammer out something really large. That's not what I see other writers who are creating novel length books, again, like anything that would be like 60,000 to 100,000 words, which for me just seems insurmountable right now, compared to short stories, which I can do in sequence with the other stuff that I do, because I have been trying to put out a paperback every year. A lot of it is heavily pictorial, or I've got, I guess, 5 paperbacks out now. One is historical, a lot of photographic material, historical photos in there. 2 of them are about travel and national parks, also heavily pictorial. I put a lot of my own photography in there. There's photography in the Chicago 1893 book of mine as well. And then I've got a couple of marketing books. Those are very short and they're kind of workbook focused. But like that's my goal, is at least over the last 5 years, has been to like put out a paperback every year and build catalog. Over the last 2 years, I've started to get into fiction, and much like songwriting was for me, it's a slow process, and I kind of, take my time with it. And, I'm not in a rush. I have been working through creating the catalog that I have currently. And those first handful of books that I started releasing in 2019 really came out of some material that I started as early as 2016 in terms of like national parks and travel, gathering those things up. They were blog posts first, and then I edited what I wrote and turned them into chapters and gathered up those chapters into books. That has been a good process for me to work through existing material, or even turning social media content into books and making them, collections in that sense. What's up, Julianne? If you want to come up on stage, you're more than welcome. I'll pass you a mic. So I just feel like, whatever your goals are, find the way that works for that. And I do a lot of video too. So I am always looking for ways to translate my ideas or the media that I'm creating, the editorial, the pictorial stuff, into other formats. So I do audiobooks. All of my releases have audiobooks to accompany them. I know that seems weird when I'm saying like, oh, these are.
It's not weird for me. I own like 250 Audible books on Audible because
Nice.
that's how I really learn. Reading something on paper, I think they said I have some kind of condition where me reading black words on the white paper, it puts me in a trance and it just makes me go to sleep. So if I try to read something, I have to actually have something else on at the same time. And I actually can take in information from both things at the same time. And I can actually tell you about both of them. But I can't, my mom, the crazy part is I was trying to do things different when I was studying for something. And my mom was like, why would you do that? I'm like, because I need to focus. She's like, but you've never done that your entire life. Even as a kid, you would be reading and doing something else at the same time. She's like, that's just how your brain works. So just go with that.
Sure.
So I've been sticking with that. And I'm just realizing that I am good at writing. I can write. I want to do articles over the movies that I watch because I like watching movies. I'm a movie buff. Me and Liz have a show on Fridays about reviewing movies. And I want to do reviews over movies and do articles on here. And I just realized that me sitting down trying to write it or type it up is one thing, but I'm a better speaker. So, and my phone is a 2024. So if I say something, it will say it verbatim with no problem. So I was like, I think that problem will be solved. I could just talk about the movie and it will take it in the text and I would take it and break it down on, change some stuff out, some stuff I misspelled or, in the wrong place, get that set up. And then I can move it over to an article and have it done that way instead of me trying to actually type everything out manually when I can speak everything that I need to feel for someone to feel what I'm trying to say. Is what I'm coming to, like you were saying before, figuring out what works for you and that works for me. And it's kind of been my life now at 41 is getting rid of all of the mental stuff of the way people do stuff and then focusing on how I do things that actually work for me. And
Absolutely.
That's a lot of years of luggage to kick out of the train from other people's perspectives on how they do things, on how you should do stuff. And every individual is different. So whatever works for you is what works for you,
Yeah, dictation software has gotten excellent. And I use that kind of sparingly. That's, not my process. To get back around to the Audible stuff, audiobooks, like I listen to a lot of audiobooks as well. I read physically when it makes sense for the content, but audiobooks you can do when you're out for a walk or driving or whatever. So it's a great way to kind of experience that material. And again, like Audible is a great distribution platform. I put all of my books on Audible. They're on there, and it's cool because it allows you to connect them to the physical releases or the ebook releases automatically. So that gets listed up on Amazon as well, just as a heads up. I guess my point in like saying that audiobooks are weird before is that for pictorial heavy content, when I'm talking about a scene or a picture or something, you can't necessarily see that in an audiobook. You're having to imagine it a little bit. Though I do use the audiobook performances as voiceover in videos. So, for example, like the Chicago 1893 book, the audiobook reading for that becomes the voiceover for the documentary version that's up on Prime. And I know Julianne's heard me talk about this stuff before, but I don't think I've ever mentioned that to you. So that workflow allows me to create more material or to get more life out of the material that I have created to basically, put out more versions of a book or turn pictorial and editorial content into film or videos. And that's, again, like stuff you can promote around or drive awareness about your projects.
That makes sense to me. And I will say that Audible has me sucked in. Like before, we're just getting the books, but now that they got this, it's almost like the 1930s when we used to people used to cut on the radio, and they'll do that's how I feel about these books, but they're on a whole nother level. Like the first one was The Sandman, which I loved all of those. And I could really feel, visually see, smell, taste, and touch everything that they were saying because it was so detailed. And then the newest one I got hooked on was Impact Winter, which is about vampires and them taking over the world and stuff like that. But from a bite to somebody's neck, to a bone snap, to a blade slicing through a tree, I can visually see it, feel it, smell it, and everything just from how crisp the sound is and how well they were on detail. And I think I'm an outlier, I guess I would say, because I'm an artist and I see things, feel things, and can smell stuff when I'm listening to all these things. And I actually really, really love it because they even have what is it? Spotify has the Batman series, which I love that one. I listened to that one like 3 times because of the simple fact of I could really feel and felt like I was there. And I wasn't expecting that at first. I just thought I was just going to listen to something. But the fact that I got sucked into that world and I didn't even want to move. I didn't want to go do nothing. I just want to sit there and listen to it. I enjoy that, a different aspect or take on an Audible book. Yeah, because I wasn't expecting it.
The audio drama stuff is great. I am an appreciator, and I try to do that with the fiction material. So I'll do, when I have a release, I'll do a straight narrative read of the story, and then I'll do a version of the story that is either like multi-voiced, so characterized reading of the dialogue, and then like sound effects and music and stuff in there too, because I think it adds to the immersive quality of the experience, and it's fun for me to produce that stuff. I like doing the audio production for it, finding good sound effects or creating soundscapes, environmental experiences out of sound inside of the story. It takes more work, obviously, but to me, listening to it as I'm producing it, I like hearing it that way because I think that it's it just adds a lot to the story, and hopefully it helps to convey additional meaning to the scenes. I don't know what other people experience with it. Obviously you like it, but inside of my stuff, just for me personally, I like hearing that stuff.
I'll be honest with you. I love it. I don't like it. I love it because of the simple fact that I only listen to Audible books or even the dramas. I only listen to it with headphones on. because I can, you're really submerged into it. And that's what I like about it so much is the fact that like the impact winter of she had a line where she was talking about how when she sliced the blade through one of the vampires that you could almost smell or taste the mist in the air. And as soon as she said that, I'm not gonna lie, I had like a little whiff of blood that I smelled in the air, but I was nowhere near it. And I love that kind of immersion because I normally would get that from a movie, but the fact that I can get the same quality of my emotions and intuition hitting from some an audio that just sucked me in, man. That's the first time I even heard one of the stories.
What are you working on now? What do you have that you're producing in terms of? I know we were talking about tooling earlier, but I assume you're trying to get somewhere with it.
Yeah, I have a show on Mondays that is the brunch before lunch, 11 a.m. to noon, and it is a mental health space midday check in brought to you in brunch terminology. Um, and also, I did it that way because brunch is like the funnest time for me. Day drinking and being out with people and enjoying yourself. I've always had good memories, so I wanted to bring that to people because when I had a job, um, by the time it get close to noon, I just want to quit. Like I'm ready to go home. I don't even want to. I don't want to go to lunch, and I just done for the day. So I wanted to have a space with people where they can give their point of views on how they make it through their day positively. That was one of them. I have three spaces. I have that one on Monday. Me and Liz do the movie review on Fridays. We pick a movie and then at the early part of the week, and then we'll discuss it. It's like a book club, which is why I call myself Watch Club, because it's like a play on a book club. So we doing just started that it's probably been like 2 weeks now, which has been really fun. And then my other space I just talked to a guy about that I'm gonna be doing is called the non-smoking section. I've been a cigar enthusiast since I was 25. I'm 41 now, and I know there's a lot of cannabis spaces, but there's no spaces over cigars or like the ambiance or the depths of cigars because cigar culture goes as deep as cannabis culture. So I
For
wanted
sure.
to give a late night space with like while me and the cigar guys could talk about pairing with alcohol and different things and get more in depth on the life of cigars and people that may be wanting to think about doing it, that might actually suck them in and people might have questions about it. And women are welcome too, because I know quite a bit of women that smoke cigars as well. So I wanted to do three shows this year and out of nowhere, apparently I got three shows.
Nice. It's funny how that works, right?
It was because I just said it like 2 months ago. It's like by the end of the year, I want three shows that are good shows, and that's what I'll be working on. And then I thought about it today. I was like, well, I got my three shows in like a month. I wasn't expecting that, but I'm rolling with it.
So then beyond that, in terms of writing, you're trying to turn those topics into blogs or other content, I'm guessing.
No, but you saying it makes me think about it now. The only thing that I was doing for writing that I want to do is do articles on here that are my reviews, my personal reviews over movies that I've seen. Like Divinity, stuff like that. I see you, Big Love. Um, so go back and rewatch stuff that I've watched like once or twice and give my honest review over it of how it makes me feel because I'm a highly intuitive spiritual person. So a lot of movies hit me completely different than people in the audience. I notice little things that other people might not notice. So I people like my takes. So I was like, well, how about I do articles on here because I didn't realize that I could do articles on X. So I just found that out. So now I'm excited to want to try it out.
Yeah, very cool. I've read a little bit in terms of the articles on Twitter. I don't find it to be my favorite way to absorb a, lengthy editorial, just because then my phone is like dedicated to that, and I'm holding it, or it's better when I'm on desktop in a browser, but at the same time, like that's not always, sometimes I accidentally click off of it or something from a notification, then I lose it. So yeah, I don't know. I guess the other side too of that, like in terms of distribution, you might find value in putting that stuff up on Medium or Substack if you're trying to create like an email list of recipients, stuff like that too. Definitely, I think worthwhile to explore all the avenues that work for you. I think long term, the best option is having a website where you kind of control the domain and the data the most, but at the same time, like building an audience on social to kind of leverage attention into, whatever silos you're creating, and being able to, drive awareness for that stuff is very useful. Obviously, like I'm here on Twitter, talking now, and use it promotionally as well, across the board in terms of like social networks. Whenever I learn about a new platform, I go and sign up for it, because I feel like there's something that they're kind of offering, either in terms of feature sets or audiences, that I want to know about. And if I learn something interesting from that platform, I'll try to extend it over to the other ones. So like threading on Twitter, that idea I've taken to other, microblogging platforms, and try to utilize that to a degree as well. Obviously, they started it, and it probably works the best here, but there's I don't know if you're into like Web3 stuff at all, but like Farcaster has communities or like topical kind of channels that are good, and it works in a similar way to, what early on were hashtag communities on Twitter, though now they have dedicated communities on Twitter. And that, again, like is a great way to drive reach, like just joining those communities that are relevant to the things that you are interested in. With the video stuff, like for example, the Pied Piper video that Chrissy and I produced, all of them over the last month or so, being able to post them natively on Twitter through our own profiles, but then like boosting awareness by sharing them out to communities, definitely drives a lot of engagement and views of those videos. Or even being able to drive traffic to other platforms is super useful. Like YouTube is obviously like, dominates video. I think hard to argue against that in terms of what the experience is there, and also the data that you get in terms of like inbound traffic. When I'm looking at, so for example, like the more views you have, the more data you get, obviously, but like Tartaria on that platform, seeing where all of the inbound traffic is coming from, either, that I'm manually driving myself, or that other individuals are creating through like messaging platforms. It's wild to me when I see inbound traffic coming from WhatsApp or Telegram, because I don't use those platforms in any serious way, and people have very heavily shared that stuff on those platforms and I see them coming to the video that way, or even via Google search, and knowing like what terms, even within just YouTube, is incredible, because it informs how I am doing things in other places by learning from that data, and trying to target keywords or phrases when I'm, doing promotional things with, like, again, blogs or press releases, or just targeting keyword sets for Instagram or, Facebook and stuff like that. So I feel like I'm analytics and research heavy with that stuff, as somebody who's worked in media and advertising for a decent amount of time at this point, that it is really critical to pay attention to that stuff, to be able to take advantage of it and get kind of like that early organic traffic, so that algorithms will pick the stuff up and continue to boost it. What's up, Gonzalo?
Oh no, I totally get what you're saying, because I came from the world of like manual labor and stuff, like running a car wash for some years, owning my own car wash, detailing and installing appliances and stuff like that. My body's just done, and I don't want to do it anymore. Second half of my life, I want to just use my brain and conversation to make my money instead of me physically beat my body up. In the gym, yes, but like for 8 hours a day, 12 hours a day, no, I don't want to do that no more. So me being in here is like a fish out of water. I've been here for 4 years, but I have organically learned stuff in 4 years, and it wasn't all just like thrown at me at once. Same thing with like me reading Chinese philosophy at 18 years old. I had no idea what the hell I was reading until one day I would be talking to somebody or I'd be doing something, and one of the quotes would pop up in my head, and what I was doing related it back to it, and then I understood it. So that's kind of how I feel in here. Like I've been a part of projects, but not realizing the hats that I'm wearing I could be using on a resume type stuff. I've been slowly, organically learning what skills I actually possess and being able to put a title with it. So I just been learning this stuff pretty slowly at my own pace, and not letting anybody try to rush me like I need to know everything all the time. So it's actually been fun. In my fourth year now, I'm finally becoming more comfortable and more confident in myself of what I know and what I actually can accomplish. So the process is long, it's with patience, but not everything cooks at the same, temperature, and not everything cooks at the same time. So I just keep learning stuff and having more confidence in myself, and the little things of the things that I've been learning is what helped me to just push through, the doubt and the fear and everything, and like just do it. It ain't never gonna come out right the first time anyway. So why don't you just do it? So that's what I'm doing. And it's been an adventure, and I'm only focusing on things that I want to do, that and stuff that I wanted to do when I first got here, but I didn't have the confidence to do it or the knowledge to accomplish it. I just got monetized probably about a month ago, but I joined some friends who taught me how to do that. But they also have been teaching me little things about marketing as well, me marketing myself. So that was another matter of fact, that's him right there. I just talked him up. Get hype right there. That him and the Reply Avengers helped me to get monetized, and they've been helping me with my confidence as well, with their support, because people supporting you is it's very important. It's the world to me. Only because when you support so many people, but then when you try to put out that you're doing something and people don't show up or they don't repost and like, even though you do it for everything that they put out, it kind of is a little discouraging a little bit. But the people that I'm around right now really, really help lift me up. You know what I mean? So it just helps me keep going forward and to keep striving and figuring stuff out. I find it fun, man. Michael, I love it here, man. Like, I didn't even know you could get paid for doing this shit for like 3 years. Like I just liked being here every day and experiencing people's creativity and the things that they love doing, and like going into different rooms about stuff that I knew nothing about, but I had a curious idea that I wanted to learn about it. So I'm just a guy that jumps into different ponds all the time. And this place is fun as hell to me.
Yeah, Twitter has evolved a lot. The monetization thing, is relatively new. There were obviously different ways to do that in the past that were not built straight into the platform, but it's also kind of changed things to a degree too, where you see a lot of like engagement farming or reach farming, and kind of sucking up. There's only so impressions impressions available on a platform due to the number of users and hours. Everybody uses an app. So I definitely see a bit of a change with that, but at the same time, like, it is what it is. You kind of have to navigate through those things in general. If anybody wants to come up and hang out and talk, this is an open space. This is very casual. We've just been kind of chatting about ideation with AI, distribution a little bit, social networks as well, since you guys have been here.
I don't know. It's like I'm your co-host out here. I don't see nobody coming up unless you got them on the back end.
No, it's all good. I mean, this is kind of a weird time of the day. I realize that, but it's the time that works for me to do this. So I do this space like every 2 weeks. And Gonzalo is going to come up. So it's, it's kind of in the middle of people's workday. So I understand that it's not necessarily always conducive to conversation, but what's up? Are you connected?
Hey, yeah, I'm up. I just heard you. I apologize about the bad sound. I'm hooking to my Bluetooth headset. Part of the reason why I wasn't gonna come up immediately, especially because I don't really know much really about marketing in general. I was hoping to learn a thing or two.
Oh, that's all good.
more than talk about it.
I mean, that's what the conversation's for, right? Yeah, I have worked like in content marketing and advertising for a long time. Did a print publication, a periodical for like 7-8 years, as well as worked for a bunch of other rags and publications and stuff like that. So it's, it's always evolving. I think that like the print industry in terms of periodicals has had it kind of tough translating what they do onto the web, unless they are kind of the biggest platforms. Things kind of come and go. But that's just the nature of things. If you have any particular questions, we can always explore that stuff.
Well, what would you say is the 101, the marketing 101 version of like the TLDR of what you would say someone start with that?
I would say, to really simplify it, I would say create product, find distribution, and develop promotions.
I would just say that audience building and maybe even brand building, a personal brand building, fits into that. That was just in a webinar today. We talked a little bit about that too.
I'm sorry, I lost a little bit of the end.
Sorry, there was a helicopter flying by.
Oh,
and I like to say that it's just funny because I was there was a webinar today about that, and just curious to hear your thoughts on it. I've been taking notes, but I've also been trying to get to work then, so I don't have it fresh in my mind right now. I took notes and then I closed it all down and I tried to get some more stuff.
Yeah, for sure. For me, I try to do a lot of that stuff hand in hand. Like, I think that because of social and the monetization of social, they've blended the opportunity or the workload, you might even say, I think it used to be a lot more kind of delineated or siloed, where like one department was focused on sales and the other was focused on promotion. And I think a lot of what people call marketing is sales or promotion. But to me, the term marketing is really to bring a product or service to market, in a classical sense. Whereas now, if you are doing promotions, you are oftentimes in sales as well. Those roles have kind of been blended or combined for a lot of people. I'm trying to dig up a tweet. I'm not finding it, but I will for you. And that is, you really have to have something to talk around, to sell. You have to have an actual product or service. In terms of like, oh, here we go. In terms of like audience side of things, wherever you are, whatever platforms you're using, like that's viable. You know what I mean? I would say go and do that as often as you can. Shoot. No, that wasn't the one. Somewhere on here. Gosh. Wow. I'm not doing a good job there. Sorry. I'm like looking at too many things simultaneously and getting distracted. Yeah, but the audience side of stuff, like wherever you can exist and build an audience, I would do that and like be involved in those communities. People kind of sniff out BS often. But at the same time, like if you're sharing information or you have a product, there it is. Now I got it. All right. Found it. That people find to be like worthwhile or useful. So I'm going to post something up because it's relevant to the conversation in a second here. But again, like you kind of want there to be an audience to receive what you're producing. So you have to build awareness early on and preempt the release. I think you do a good job of that. Like you're hosting spaces, and talking about story, and you're talking about, creating the graphic novels and stuff that you're doing, and people are going to gravitate to you as kind of like an influencer or a creative who's focused on those topics. And then as you get closer to putting that stuff out, you have built the audience that becomes the market for your work. So here, I'm going to post up something because this is a little kind of shilling a little bit, but it's okay. So this is, and I don't think the Udemy thing is live anymore. I think I took it down from there. But the book, oh shoot, no, I shouldn't even have posted that at all. Hold on, let me go dig this up again. Gosh, I'm doing terrible here. Yeah.
Are you sharing that directly from the original post, or are you putting it up?
I'm putting something up and up into the nest. So there's like I put out a workbook on personal branding a couple of years ago. It's actually like my second best-selling book that I have out. And it's available in a bunch of different platforms, but like it's kind of meta in this way, because it is about content development and branding and promotion and marketing, but it is also like I had to develop that content. So it's kind of like a thing that is about itself in a lot of ways. So it's like 10 lessons about developing like brand assets, building audience, and you're doing a lot of that stuff already, in the sense that you're developing the characters and an audience, a network, events. You know, I consider Twitter Spaces to be an event, and those can be physical or digital, and really, you know, take advantage of all of the mechanisms that are out there. But I guess the one thing I would go back to, like the basics in terms of view, is like to develop brand assets for Gonzalo. You know, like while my PFP is not a picture that shows me clearly, I've been using it for like 10 years. So if you see that picture of me anywhere, like, you know, that's me, you know, like I would assume, you know, when it pops up in notifications or inside of Spaces, like it's immediately recognizable who is behind that PFP. Or if you find it on other social channels or website or whatever, like it's clearly identifiable.
So that's what we. So yeah, that's what we mean. Excuse me. That's what you mean when you're talking about brand assets.
Yeah, for sure. So, and that extends into like font or slogans, pictorial content, so many things. Like I can't do the whole book for you here rapidly, but like in general, I did a series of podcasts with guests as well, that are kind of under that moniker. So like the 10-step branding stuff. And those podcasts kind of go into not only the people, but the topics and how to apply them. And like, you know, they're free. Obviously the podcasts are free. So it's, you know, no cost besides time. But like you could probably find the book for very cheap as well, in the sense that like it's in libraries. For the audiobook version is in libraries, and like I have you know, gotten it from the library in that way, just to see how it comes through. I don't know what library you belong to, or if you do, you probably do, but they probably do audiobooks. And, you know, you can put in requests. Like if you use Libby, I don't know if you do, but on Libby, which is an audiobook platform that libraries use for their members. So, you know, you can get it. You could get it for free. Basically, I still make money off of that. I still get paid, even if, you know, you aren't necessarily personally buying the book retail. Like they pay a fee for access to the books, or if they buy the book, depending on like what platform they're using. So I know this is getting a little bit into the nitty gritty about like audiobooks and distribution, but we do that here and have done that here. And like in the sense of getting back to like what we were talking about with Jonathan earlier, in terms of distribution, like that all counts. You know, if people are becoming aware of what you do through any one project, then there's higher probability that they're going to be aware of the other material that you do. So for example, like somebody in Germany has been buying my books over the last couple of weeks on KDP on Amazon. I'm going to mute you for a second. Or you can. And they bought one book and now they keep buying the other stuff, which is cool, you know, because like maybe they like one particular thing, or they like a couple of things, or they just want to hear what I have to say about other stuff. Like that's all viable to me. You know, I'm happy to have them discover the work that I do. You know, it all works in that sense. So that's getting back to like creating a catalog, I feel like this is something that Heidi and I talked about a couple of weeks ago in terms of like hitting critical mass. Like if you only have one thing out, then people can only really find you through that one thing. If you start producing more material or you have a series, then they can discover you from all these different channels and outlets. That's the same thing in terms of like being present on social networks in that sense too. Like you don't know, people have different tastes about social networks. They only want to or choose to exist in certain places. But if you exist across the board, then that raises the potentiality that you are discovered by them. Same thing goes for, your catalog of releases. And that can even extend into any one particular project. For example, the Chicago 1893 project. Again, it's an ebook, a paperback, an audiobook, a documentary. It had an augmented reality release at one point. And I've done coverage and media for it. There was a film opening in downtown Chicago to premiere the film at a theater there. And being able to kind of move that audience along through the development of the project or, new offerings for it and being able to keep them interested topically in it as they share those posts or they tell friends or get a paperback for somebody in their family, then that person is then kind of brought into the fold as well. So it takes a while to develop all this stuff. Again, like I've been putting out books since 2019. So like 5 years this month is the 5th anniversary of the first book that I put out. It came out in August of 2019. So even though this year is 2/3 done, and there's still a third of the year to go, like 25% of all the books I have sold were sold in just the 2/3 of this month, or I'm sorry, of this year. So like, you want to keep building up, your snowball and letting it roll downhill, and people will continue to discover you. I think like if you only have that one thing and you only ever do the one thing, then it's tough to build momentum unless it's an immediate home run. But for us in like the indie scene or the self-publishing scene, like you have to, it goes back to that academic statement of publish or perish. You have to continually create new work to drive awareness for all of your existing work, your catalog, and the offerings that you make. And again, like that extends over to doing podcasts. So like I consistently put out podcasts. Some people find me from there, and come over to the other material. If you find me from an audiobook, maybe you discover me on social media and then you're hanging out in those circles. So I would say like take advantage of all the very like free or cheap mechanisms at first and like build up your momentum, if that helps.
Yeah, it does. I like how you use the example of the 2/3. Was it the 2/3 of the work having been sold in like the first 2/3 of this year, even though you've been doing it for many years? It's kind of this compounding effect.
Yeah.
And you don't see it until it's past, right? You don't feel it until you look back and realize, oh wait, there it was.
Yeah. I mean, and I track that data. So like, earlier this year, I started to really gather up all of the sales data across the distribution channels and kind of looking at that and trying to understand, what was happening. And I still am, learning about it. Again, like trying to be analytical, being data focused about stuff, and trying to say like, what's worth more effort, or where am I not getting as good of a return on like my effort and time? Like that shouldn't be the only like metric or criteria for the work that you do. Like, do the things you love to do. For example, like the national park stuff does not move as much as the other material, but I love doing it. Like it's my most personal work. It's all my photography and my writing, and like memories of travel and friends and family and stuff. I notice that it spikes in the summer when people are traveling and going to parks. All of a sudden they're looking for information on that stuff. So like starting in the spring, those books start to, kind of traction up. And then in the winter, when people aren't doing that, then they fall away. But yeah,
so that means like everything has its season, everything has its time, which is why you need to have patience, because patience builds longevity. Because no matter what, people are still going to come back to those books, and they're going to bring other people back to those books. You know what I mean? So I like your thoughts and theories and breakdowns on how you do stuff and how you look at it, because that clearly tells me that you're not doing stuff just because you want money or you're in it for the money. You're literally doing things because you're in the love of for what you're doing it because you love it. Like it's what you enjoy. Of course, everybody want to get the money. Don't get me wrong. You got bills to pay, different things like that. But I like the fact that you haven't actually talked about any of that this entire time. You've just been talking about like finding out what you love doing, focusing on different things, giving tips and stuff like that. So I really appreciate the alpha, as they say, that you're giving me.
Yeah, this is a very freeform space,
I was just thinking about how it's authentic if the people who start to follow you can tell that it's not about the money, and how you're doing it because you love doing it. And for a second I thought, well, yeah, because if it wasn't, if money doesn't matter, I'm still gonna just sit down and write my stories, and I wouldn't care about getting them published. I would just sit down and write them and keep them for myself. And then I thought immediately my brain just went off and said, no, that's not it. That still wouldn't be enough. So it's more about, in my case anyway, for fiction writing, it's more about getting other people to see it, getting other people to sharing it, right? Sharing it with other people and getting other people to, get excited about it and read it. And maybe there's probably quite a bit of validation seeking in there too, which is normal. But there are, like you said, Jonathan, right? There are still bills to pay. You still want to go on vacation, nice vacation every once in a while. So if that thing that you love, that you're showing other people, getting other people excited about, can also pay the bills, so that you don't have to, take a 9-to-5 job that you hate, and then have, free up more time to do more of the stuff that you like. Well, then everybody wins, right? So it's not about the money, but it kind of is, so that your time doing the thing that you love is maximized, and the time doing the things that you don't really care about is minimized. So it's an interesting thing to think about, where like whether it's about the money or not. It's not about the money, but it's a necessary part, right? Not just sharing, not just doing it, not just sharing it with others, but letting that thing be the thing, be your source of income, so that you can just do that thing, right? You can dedicate your time to that thing.
Yeah, I think that like when people are interested in what you're doing, then they are happy to enable you, like financially, right? If they're really enjoying the work that you're turning out, then they want to support that work continuing. It's better to have things that we like than a bunch of things that we don't like out in the world, or, messages that resonate with us, as opposed to messages that are incongruent with our perspective or our angles in general. But everybody's gonna gravitate towards the stuff that kind of speaks to them.
And it's funny because there's a lot of talk about exchange of value especially in the money X circles, money Twitter circles. I don't think it's so much about people wanting to give you money so that you can, so that they can support you, so you can be, pay your bills and stuff. It's more about, I enjoy, like, the joy that this book gives me is worth more than the $10 it costs. So here you go. And I do enjoy this author. So, I resonate with what he says, and so I'm happy to buy anything that they put out. It's complicated.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, you have to stick with stuff for a long time to get people to buy into, and in a communal sense, like what you're doing, not in a financial sense. Like, I think, like, in general, people are going to spend money on being entertained. Like, historically we see that, people have free time and they want to spend it on things that they like, but they also, let's speak on like George Martin, they get salty when stuff doesn't get finished. So you got to give your audience, or the people that are supporting you, like a payoff for investing their time into you. Otherwise they have lots of opportunities to invest their time elsewhere.
Yeah, when it doesn't get finished, or when that finished thing isn't what they were expecting. when
Hold up. Are you talking about Game of Thrones now? How the show didn't end the way we thought? Is that where we going?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, shit, man. We've been hanging out for a little over an hour. Usually do this for an hour. If there's any final thoughts or things people want to promote, feel free. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up for today, and we'll be back in 2 weeks.
I'll go. Go ahead. You go first. You go first.
I was just gonna say that. There's not really anything that I'm promoting now. It's all good. So you go.
I just wanted to say thank you so much. I'm glad that I went into the Film 3 space last night and actually saw that you were in there. And to be in here, thank you for the information. I am going to be back in 2 weeks. And the things that I would do want to promote is that me and Liz do a Friday show for movie review. It's almost like a book club that we tell at the beginning of the week what the movie's going to be. People watch it and we talk about it at the end of the week. On Fridays at 6 o'clock. I also hold a space that is a mental health space on Mondays from 11 to noon called Brunch Before Lunch. So if y'all looking to having a crappy part of your early part of your day, or you're having a great part and want to keep it live, so come check me out. But thank you, Michael, for the thing.
Yeah, no problem. Pleasure to do it. As always, there are lots of other great writing spaces. Gonzalo here runs one on Tuesday evenings, a workshop for story development. Very, very good. Have utilized it numerous times. I also co-host a Tuesday midday space with Heidi Hill, topically focused usually. And, that's a weekly program. And luckily, she's back now. No shade at any of the additional co-hosts like Gonzalo filling in with us. But it was a lot. It was a lot for me to navigate without her, because she does a lot of the heavy lifting on that program. At any rate, thanks for hanging out with us, and take a look at the tweets above if there's anything there interesting for you. Tomorrow, I will be with Chris for the Film 3 chat we do on Thursdays, which is also a weekly program. And, we'll be back here on Wednesday in 2 weeks. Have a good day.